Hello, and thank you for joining Real Tea by Dr. T. Today I'm going to be covering episode 2 of What Jesus Said. Before we can actually get into the words of Jesus, today is another background of information on Jesus' life. Okay? So, chapter 2 of Matthew, and Matthew is interesting because he and the Apostle John, who are of the four Gospels, they were the only two that actually walked with Jesus, because Mark and Luke did not actually walk with Jesus as far as the two apostles on his journey. However, they were there to get some information, and they had received from others that did walk with Christ. But Matthew is our first account of historical information after Jesus was born. Okay? So it says in verse 1 of chapter 2, Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." Now, let me stop right there. So, we see that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, which is located in Judea. This was during the reign of King Herod, and King Herod was a man of strong influence of his time, but he was not a kind king. About that time, as it says, some wise men who came from the east, asking, where is the newborn? Where is the newborn King of the Jews? And so they were come to worship him. Now, a lot of nativity scenes, you see only 3 wise men. I guess they have to stop at some number, but I want to make it clear that the nativity plays and scenes that we see do not represent the number of wise men, as we have seen, because the scripture doesn't tell us how many wise men they were. And it really is not relevant, but I wanted to make that known because, some have believed based on the plays that there were 3 wise men. Okay? So hopefully that clears you all up if you thought that. And so going on, it says King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. Now, you probably would question, why was everyone in Jerusalem deeply disturbed? I mean, they had the information from the prophets. They knew this was going to happen. You would think they would have been excited, not deeply disturbed. So he called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law and asked, where is the Messiah supposed to be born? Now, this is interesting. Herod, they didn't have any care for Jesus. Didn't care for him. And you have the leading priests and the teachers of religious law. They knew Herod the king was not one who was a theologian or had any concern for theology. So why would he be looking for the Messiah, for what? That would be the number one question that these religious teachers of religious law and leading priests should have had, but they didn't. They actually said in Bethlehem, in Judea, they said. So they told this king, exactly where Jesus was to be born. And they even gave the confirmation, for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah, for a ruler will come from you, who will be the shepherd for my people Israel. Now, what was the likelihood of that? So, they had the answer, but it's interesting because King Herod did not know this. He was not one who studied the Torah or even the scrolls that came in addition to the Torah to even be aware of this information, because he wouldn't have been asking them where he was located. So then Herod called a private meeting. This time it was with the wise men, First was the religious leaders and the religious teachers of religious law. Now, he got what he wanted from them, and he's asking the wise men, and he's sending them on a journey for him. And it says that When he called for this private meeting with the wise men, he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. He said he used these wise men. He learned from these wise men because he didn't know when the star first appeared. Then he told them, go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, come back and tell me so that I can go and worship him too. Yeah, right. These wise men were not wise in this understanding that King Herod did not really want to go and worship the Lord, okay? So, moving forward, I want to stress something. You can have a lot of wisdom, but you need the Lord to give it to you, okay? Because the wisdom of this world, it is an enemy to God. That's what the scripture said, okay? You can fact check that after you find that. You should be able to look that up. It says, the wisdom of this world is enmity towards the Lord. Okay? If you want me to, look it up for you. I could do that too, so you can fact check. It says in 1 Corinthians 3:19, that's where it's located. It says, for the wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight, as it is written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows that the thoughts of the wise are futile. All right? So there you go. There's another scripture that says, for the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God, as the scripture says, he traps the wise in the snare of their own cleverness. All right, then those are two different versions. But I'm going to go ahead and move on with the point. I want to stress how these wise men were not wise when it came to giving Herod information that he really wasn't privy to. Okay? So, moving on. After this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. See, they were happy, okay? They were so excited. They didn't want to come do harm. They were genuinely happy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasure chest and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. Okay? Now it talks about the escape to Egypt. After the wise men were gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. He told Joseph to get up, flee to Egypt with the child and his mother, and he told him to stay there until he got instructions to return, because Herod was going to search for the child to kill him. That night, Joseph left for Egypt with the child and Mary, his mother, and they stayed there until Herod's death. This fulfilled what the Lord had spoken through the prophet. He said, I called my son out of Egypt. Herod was so angry. He realized that the wise men had outwitted him. But let me stop right there. They did not outwit Herod because they just had the wisdom. The only reason why they outwitted Herod because an angel told them, don't go back to Herod. So, wise people who don't have godly wisdom do not always make wise decisions. All right? That's the point I want to make here. And it says it says he sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men's report of the star's first appearance. And that right there is an interesting situation. Herod did it based on a report that he got from the wise men. Herod's brutal action fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And this is what the prophet Jeremiah said. A cry was heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted, for they are dead. That was a messy situation. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt. Get up, the angel said. Take the child and his mother back to the land of Israel, because those who were trying to kill the child are dead. So Joseph got up and returned to the land of Israel with Jesus and his mother. But when he learned that the new ruler of Judea was Herod's son, Archelaus, he was afraid to go there. Then, after being warned in a dream, he left for the region of Galilee. So the family went and lived in a town called Nazareth. This fulfilled what the prophets had said. He would be called a Nazarene. Now, some might judge Joseph and, about being afraid, to go to back to the city where the father of this new king had ruled, because he knew that, okay, a lot of times like father like son. And it's interesting how the Lord did not tell him, to go back anyway. He already gave instruction that the ones that was trying to kill him was already gone, but hey, that was not good enough. Joseph was really afraid, because again, his son, the son of Herod, Archelaus, he wasn't sure if he had the same, attitude like his father. So even though God gave instruction through the angel to tell him that he could go back, you see how this was rerouted just to fulfill the purpose from the beginning. Now, do you think it's interesting that he did not tell him to go straight to Nazareth from Egypt? I find that interesting. He didn't do it that way. But the purpose was still fulfilled, because it had to be said, he will be called a Nazarene. Even though he was not actually born in Nazarene. Because as you know, he was born in Bethlehem. Then he ended up in Galilee, in a small town called Nazareth. So, when God says something, it's going to be fulfilled. But the route that it takes to be fulfilled is unlike what you may perceive. Just hang in there, okay? It's going to happen because the Lord said so. So it's not your wisdom that's going to make it happen. It's not the wisdom of someone else that's going to make it happen. It's through Christ and Christ alone, okay? Well, that's all the tea I have for you today. And until the next time you sit with me, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your tea. Have a great day.